integration and identification of scalable solutions.
The first question
And the second
is how
question
can innovation
is
and
how
technology
can
transfer foster
foster
holistic and
best
multi-sectoral
the
approaches
implementation
with
of
just
nationally
energy
defined
transition
just
pathways
energy
that
transition
leaves no one
pathways,
behind,
including
including through
energy
inclusive
efficiency,
innovation,
clean cooking
local
solutions,
knowledge
scaling
integration,
of
and
renewable energy,
identification of
and
scalable
enhancing
solutions.
energy access.
And the
So
second
I would
question
like then
is
to
how
open
can
the
innovation
floor
and technology transfer
for
best support
interventions,
the implementation
again,
of nationally
it's a
defined
chance
just
to have
energy
an
transition
interactions here.
pathways,
So feel
including
free
through
to
energy
also engage
efficiency,
with
clean cooking
one
solutions,
another when
scaling
responding
of
or when
renewable
making your
energy, and
interventions
enhancing energy
regarding
access.
the topic
So I would
that
like then
we have
to
at hand.
open the
And we
floor
also have
for
participants online.
interventions.
So
Again,
we will bring them in
it's a
as well
chance
in the
to have an
conversation.
interactions
The floor
here. So
is
feel free
open.
to also engage with one another when responding or when making your interventions regarding the topic
Yes,
that
thank
we
you,
have
Ran,
at
you
hand.
have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Facilitator. May I also
Floor
respond
is,
to those two
open.
questions together, or we should respond one by one?
I think you can respond the questions together
Okay.
if it would work
Yes,
for you. Thank you,
Thank you
Ran.
so
You
much.
have the floor.
I am
Thank
responding
you,
to those
Madam
questions on behalf of
Facilitator.
LMDC. May I also
to
respond
support
to those two
developing
questions
countries
together, or
efforts
we should
to achieve
respond one by
sustainable
one?
development in a climate-constrained world.
I think you
The
can
most
respond the
appropriate
questions
technologies for
together
climate
if
change
it
monitoring,
would work for you.
mitigation, and
Thank you so
adaptations
much.
hence need to
I
be
am
made available to
responding
developing
to those
countries.
questions on behalf of LMDC.
This should be under conditions that are cost-effective or
to
more
support developing
favorable
countries
efforts
and
to
commercial
achieve sustainable
conditions
development
and
in a
come with the
climate-constrained
corresponding
world.
policy,
The
technical
most appropriate
assistance, and
technologies for
financial
climate
support
change
package
monitoring, mitigation, and
needed to make it
adaptations
easy for developing
hence need
countries
to be made
to
available to
undertake their
developing
own
countries.
technology research and
This
development
should be
and to
under
innovate and
conditions
adapt
that are
transfer
cost-effective or
technologies
more
according to their
favorable
development and
than
climate change
commercial
needs and
conditions
priorities.
and come with the corresponding
Technologies,
policy that
technical
are high,
assistance, and
high
financial
capital,
support package
capital intensive and
need,
labor
needed to
saving
make
will
it
be
easy for
efficient
developing
only
countries
in
to
countries where
undertake their
cost of
own
capitals
technology
are
research
low
and
and
development
cost of
and to
labor are
innovate
high,
and adapt
such as in
transfer
developed
technologies
countries.
according to
While
their
technologies
development and
which
climate
require a
change
large
needs and
volume of
priorities.
skilled labor will be more
Technologies
competitive
that
in a
are
country highly
where the
capital,
skilled labor is
capital intensive
abundant
and labor
and where
saving
it
will
is
be
scarce,
efficient
resulting
only
in a
in
technological
countries where
divide.
cost of capitals are low
Treat
and
the
cost
cost
of
of
labor are high,
and access to
such as in
finance of
developed
often
countries.
major
While
challenge with
technologies
respect to
which
the
require a
deployment
large
and transfer
volume
of
of
climate
skilled labor
technologies in
will be
developing
more
countries.
competitive in a
These
country
are often
where
capital
skilled
intensive
labor
and
is require
abundant
mobilization of
and where it is
large
scarce,
upfront
resulting in a
financing for
technological
investment
divide.
life cycle that often
Treat the
spans
cost of
several decades
and
and
access
which
to finance are
ultimately
often
render them
major challenge with
unaffordable
respect
for a
to
developing
deployment
country.
and transfer of
The
climate
main challenge for
technologies in
technology
developing countries.
development and
These are
transfer
often capital
identified by
intensive and
developing
require
countries in their
mobilization of
P&A
large
and
upfront
NDCs
financing
include
for
investment life cycle
economic and
that
financial
often
barriers such as lack of
spans
access
several
to
decades
financial
and which
resources
could
high
ultimately
initial cost of
render them
technologies
unaffordable
difficult
for
for
a
the
developing
developing
countries
countries.
and
The main
uncertainties
challenge
regarding
for
return
technology
on investment.
development and transfer
Policy, legal, and
identified by
regulatory
developing
check
countries
gaps,
in their
including insufficient
P&A
legal
and
and
NDCs
and the
include
need for improved, strengthen,
economic
and
and financial
streamline
barriers
domestic
such as
policy
lack of
framework,
access to financial
facilitate
resources,
the high initial
development
cost
and
of
transfer of
technologies,
technologies,
difficulties in
technical
obtaining
capacity
loans, and
constraints such as
uncertainties
systems
regarding
limitations,
return on
insufficient
investment.
expertise, inadequate standards,
Policy, legal,
codes,
and
and
regulatory check
certifications.
gaps, including insufficient legal and
As a
UN
and the need
environment
for
unit
improved,
study has
strengthen,
noted
and
for
streamline
renewable
domestic
energy
policy
approach
frameworks,
for
facilitate
renewable
the
energy
development and
projects, for
transfer of
instance, to cut the
technologies.
capital in developing
Technical
countries,
capacity constraints
such
is
as
higher
system
than in
limitations,
industrial countries.
insufficient expertise,
Inadequate
distance
standards,
severe
codes,
constraint the
and
development of
certification.
technology. End of the quote.
As a
Six, UN
given that
environment
most
climate
climate
study
technologies
has
are
noted
patent
for
owned
renewable energy
and
produced
quote,
by private
for
sector
renewable
firm
energy
whose
projects, for
primary
instance, the
motivation
cost
is
of
to
capital in
generate
developing
revenue
countries
from
is
their
significantly
products.
higher than in
The direction
industrial
of
countries.
investment would
This
tend
can
to be
severely
toward the
constrain the development
products
of
and solutions
technology.
for the
End of the quote.
consumers of countries
Six,
with
given that
significant
most
buying
climate
power.
technologies are patent
For example,
owned
developing
and
countries,
produced by
rather than
private
poorer
sector firms
developing countries
whose
whose primary
primary
motivation
motivation
is to
in
generate
many
revenue
cases such
from their
products and
products
solutions
are often
the
inappropriate
direction of
or
investment
else would need some
tend to
level
be
of
towards
adaptation
development
to
of
be able
products
to
and solutions
meet
for the
developing countries'
consumers of
circumstances.
countries with significant buying power. For example, developing countries, rather than poorer developing countries and their consumers. In many cases, financial products and solutions are offered across financial resources, high initial cost of technologies, difficulties in obtaining loans, uncertainty regarding return on investment, and a general lack of financial resources. I have 10 points and I am on 8. Many developing countries financial lack of inadequate access to financial resources, high initial cost of technology, difficulties in obtaining loans, uncertainty regarding return on investment, and a general lack of financial resources. I have 10 points and I am on 8. Many developing countries have made their embassies under the Paris Agreement conditional on receiving climate finance, technology knowledge and capacity building support. However, a study has found that many low carbon technology transfer initiatives on average focus on transferring multiple kinds of in the NDCs, many developing countries identify certain types of technology that they intend to use for implementing adaptation and mitigation actions. Most frequently related to the energy, agriculture, water, and waste sector. Their unidentified technology on average were mainly cross-cutting in the NDCs, many developing countries identified certain types of technology that they intend to use for implementing adaptation and mitigation actions. Most frequently related to energy, agriculture, water, and waste sector. Their unidentified technology were mainly of the cross-cutting nature, addressing both adaptation and mitigation technologies, followed by climate on the smart agriculture and the smart irrigation identified technologies and technologies related to water energy management. For example, waste enhancing use of renewable energy and economic hydrogen practices. And decarbonizing power systems and boosting their storage capacity. Followed by agriculture technologies, for example, climate, smart agriculture, and smart irrigation technologies, and technologies related to water and waste management, for example, waste energy technologies and circular economic practices. Finally, my 10 point is the gap between developed and developing instruments such as the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement, the TRIPs, the TRIPS agreement, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, among others, and agreed multilateral agreements such as the SDGs. Sustainable development all recognize that such a gap needs to be addressed through existing treaty instruments such as the UNFCCC and its Paris Agreement, the TRIPs, the TRIPS agreement, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, among others, and agreed multilateral agreements such as the SDGs. Thank you. All recognize that such a gap needs to be addressed through a coherent and effective combination of national
for your
action and
intervention.
international cooperation in
Let
promote
me
the transfer
see
of
if we
technology
have
from developed
anybody
to
else in the
developing countries.
room,
In
and
its first
then we
place, and
monitor
to
also
encourage the
the
development
online
of
participants.
indigenous technologies in the second place. Thank you, and my apology for long intervention.
Many thanks for your intervention. Let me see
Norway,
if we
you
have
have the floor.
anybody else in the room,
Sorry.
and then we monitor also the online participants.
United Arab Emirates.
Yeah, speaking on the behalf of the Arab group, in regards to the first portion of the question, developing countries
Norway,
must be
you have the
supported to enhance their ability to
Sorry.
develop climate technologies relevant to their circumstances. Developing countries
United
must be
Arab
adequately
Emirates.
supported through financial, technical,
speaking
and
on the behalf
capacity
of the
building
Arab
support to enhance their
in regards to the
sustainability capacity to develop, disseminate, and deploy
question,
climate technology
developing
relevant
countries
to their
must be
national
supported to
transition
enhance
pathway.
their ability to
Develop climate technologies relevant to their circumstances. Developing countries must be adequately supported through financial, technical, and capacity building support to enhance their sustainability capacity to develop, disseminate, and deploy climate technologies relevant to their national transition pathway. By enabling developing countries to advance the development and the deployment of these technologies, they can more needs to be done through the financial mechanism of the convention. To developing countries require support from the financial benefit. Waiving of poverty rights and technologies transfer is a must. Such waiving will allow developing countries to have more ambition in mitigating and reaffirmed it with the Paris Agreement. And the upcoming needs to be done through the financial mechanism of the convention. To developing countries require support from the financial mechanism of the UNFCCC. to advance research and development, early access and deployment of technologies. We have agreed this in 1992 and reaffirmed it with the Paris Agreement. And the upcoming Technology Implementation Program is an important opportunity to rectify these challenges and realize opportunities, particularly as it relates to operationalizing the linkages between the technology and financial mechanisms in a manner that meaningfully drives forward implementation. And in regard to the second portion of the question 2, in the same theme, just transition pathways must respect national sovereignty. Innovation and technology transfer cannot be defined only as renewables or efficiency, but must include the full range of technologies that parties choose for their own pathway, including carbon capture, utilization, and storage. The real barrier is not innovation itself, but the intellectual property regimes that keep developing countries locked out. For innovation to support just transition, developed countries must fulfill their obligation to make technologies accessible, affordable, and free of restrictive patents, while also supporting manufacturing and developing of solutions within the global south. Clean cooking solutions are integral to just transitions and should not be where support from developed countries ends. In fact, it must empower developing countries to industrialize and have energy access and affordability solutions within their own national priorities in whatever manner that is pertaining to their own development. And it is crucial to support different technologies as well as global emission abatement solutions. Thank you.
Many thanks for that intervention. And I think now we have Norway.
Thank you very much. And I will talk a little bit about the good practices on innovation and so on. And it's very clear that it's important to create an ecosystem for innovation. This is also called the National System of Innovation. And in that regard, we need to take a systematic approach to establishing and or strengthening such a system, which is aligned with the host country development objectives. We should also tailor approaches to bridging gaps in the innovation process, given that innovation needs vary by phase and sector. Understanding the local context so as to engage relevant actors, mobilizing their required resources, identifying and addressing gaps in the innovation process, and tapping into the complementary structures and processes of the overall innovation system are very important to advance the technology innovation system. Should also promote participation and interaction among local actors to facilitate innovation and alignment with the national system innovation with country development objectives. Local actors have the best understanding of local context and institutions, as well as often having the largest stake in the outcomes, and are therefore best placed to help to fill the gaps in and advance functions of the innovation system. Engaging with international institutions to help to build local institutions and networks, as they can play an important role by introducing global best practices, assisting with the development, adaptation, and diffusion of new technologies, and help developing financial and technical resources, building on the capacity of the local actors in the institute. Ensuring innovation and organization development of national system innovation must evolve and are able to adapt to new circumstances is a key. Also important to identify a portfolio of solutions to strengthen functions across the innovation cycle and to build the capacity of a variety of actors to address the scale and complexity of climate change adaptation and mitigation challenges. And lastly, dealing with structural problems is also necessary, since in some cases the underlying problems of poverty, lack of influence and voice, and environmental and social challenges are not acknowledged when designing and the system of innovation, and only becomes clear during the implementation of such a system. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that intervention. And I'm sorry about my eyes. Yes, then we have Denmark and then Grenada. Denmark, yeah.
Thank you for passing me the floor. I speak as Denmark, a member of the European Union, and I will try to answer both questions. The EU emphasizes inclusive innovation, where technology development actively involves local communities, workers, SMEs, and civil society. Programs under Horizon Europe encourage co-design of renewable energy systems, smart grids, and energy-efficient solutions to reflect local needs, social realities, and cultural context, ensuring that no one is left behind. EU initiatives such as the European Innovation Council, Global Gateway, and Innovation Fund support cross-border technology transfer to developing countries. By sharing best practices, tools, and scalable renewable solutions, we enhance energy access, resilience, and climate mitigation, while avoiding technological lock-in or inequitable adoption. Just energy transitions must connect energy, water, agriculture, transport, and industry sectors. EU-backed programs such as Horizon Europe missions demonstrate how energy innovations can drive cross-sectoral benefits from clean mobility to efficient heating, reducing social and environmental trade-offs. Innovation must prioritize scalability and adaptability, enabling solutions developed in one region to be tailored to diverse national and local contexts. Examples include modular solar and mini-grid systems in rural areas, smart energy management platforms, and hybrid renewable storage systems supported by EU technical assistance via ERINA and Covenant of Mayors program. Technology alone is not enough. The EU stresses the integration of local knowledge, indigenous practices, and community expertise into design, deployment, and operation. This approach ensures social acceptance, efficiency, and resilience, aligning with ILO guidelines on just transitions and UNDP guidance on participatory innovation. Successful technology adaptation requires partnerships between government, private sector, academia, and local communities. EU-funded PPPs demonstrate how research institutions, local SMEs, and citizens cooperatives can collaborate to co-develop affordable, clean, and resilient energy solutions, ensuring both economic and social benefits. Innovation and technology transfer must include robust monitoring, impact assessment, and adaptive learning to identify what works in practice. EU programs incorporate metrics for social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economic impact, ensuring that scaling does not compromise equity. The EU further emphasizes that innovation in energy efficiency technologies, smart grids, building retrofits, and industrial process optimization can significantly reduce emissions and energy demand. Group programs like Horizon Europe Energy Efficiency Mission and ELINA, the EU supports scalable, cost-effective solutions that lower energy costs for households and businesses, contributing directly to nationally defined just energy transition pathways. Innovative solutions for clean cooking, such as effective biomass stoves, LPG, biogas, and electric cookers are critical for public health, gender equality, and climate mitigation. The EU supports blended finance, PPPs, and capacity building programs to deploy these solutions at scale, ensuring affordable access for vulnerable communities. The EU promotes inclusive technology transfer where local enterprises, SMEs, and communities are actively engaged in adopting, maintaining, and scaling new energy technologies. Programs under Horizon Europe and the European Innovation Council provide technical support, funding, and knowledge-sharing platforms to integrate local knowledge and participatory approaches. Technology innovation must ensure equitable energy access, particularly in rural and underserved regions. EU-supported initiatives like the Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy and Global Gateway Clean Energy programs combine decentralized renewable energy, mini-grids, and digital management platforms to deliver reliable, affordable, and climate resilient energy services. EU programs integrate robust monitoring and knowledge exchange to assess the effectiveness of technology deployment, enabling lessons learned to be replicated across regions and sectors. This ensures nationally defined just energy transition pathways and dynamic, evidence-based, socially inclusive, leaving no one behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that intervention. And if I recall, there was Grenada. Grenada, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. As a small island developing state, Grenada advocates for inclusive innovation and technology transfer to transition to renewable energy, reduce its fossil fuel dependence, and build resilience against the impacts of climate change, against the need for financial support, capacity building, and the adoption of cutting edge ocean and solar energy technologies in a manner which respects intellectual property and guard against the dumping of outdated technologies on small island developing states and developing countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Grenada. And Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, some intervention on the innovation and technology transfer, what that mean to us, that I'm going to answer this. How can innovation and technology transfer foster holistic and multi-sectoral approaches to sustainable transition process that leaves no one behind, including through inclusive innovation, local knowledge integration, and identification of scalable solutions. So then Sri Lanka is a country found in the ocean tropical equator region. So a lot of biodiversity countries, 80% of the countries under global biodiversity hotspot. So what happened is that our traditionally people, the Sri Lankan were used to use biomass for fuel wood and all the things. But what happened is that the modern lifestyles, the customs to depend on most of the energy sources imported from other countries. The gravity of that is that the 41% of the energy is imported from other countries as natural gas and all those things. And it is a substantial amount of money happen to spend from national income. So as we are a biodiversity hotspot, a lot of biomass is there, but the, the customs, the traditional methods of harvesting biomass and collecting the firewood for cooking and all those things are being fast becoming extinct. And they also have it that housewives and all collecting firewood and storing those things, but that was a problem. Another thing is that mm, this is a biodiversity hotspot. Some of the species which were used for firewood in the past, so they lost the management practice of harvesting this and preparing for firewood. So then they became invasive. So then another problem, so the invasive species is the second largest reason for biodiversity depletion next to the habitat destruction. So uh, I think there may be some similar countries in the tropical areas, lot of biomass is being produced because of this year-round availability of sun and the monsoon rains and all, soil fertility and all. So the just transition should be considered to transfer to using traditional methods of harvesting fuel in their vicinity. Might be similar situations in the other countries. Also, then we can have address the holistic and multi-sectoral approach. And for this energy sector, would have some important core benefits of adaptation. Also, there were traditional festivals practiced in the past that the most of the perennial plants, their big branches were cut ceremonially, and that was done annually or seasonally to collect fuel wood. But now those the traditional rituals and festivals not being implemented. But then such things would be an innovative methods of generating biofuel in the air vicinity. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that intervention. We are going to have to close in a couple of minutes. So I'm taking Engo and I saw Ethiopia. But if you could, sorry, can you turn? Yes, and women and gender. If I could ask you perhaps to keep the intervention short, that would be great. Thank you. I think the first we had no women and gender constituency. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, so on behalf of the Women and Gender constituency, in the absence of adequate and predictable financing, developing countries will remain significantly constrained in their ability to raise ambition and adapt to the escalating impacts of the climate crisis. We would like to emphasize the need to strengthen the technology mechanism as well as the technology implementation program. The technology mechanism is already doing important work in supporting the development and transfer of climate technologies to developing countries. However, there is considerable room for improvement. Many countries have requested assistance, but current funding levels are insufficient to support the development and deployment of technologies at this scale. There is a need to invest in strengthening national innovation systems. Promoting local innovation and technology development is essential to avoid situations where developing countries incur debt to acquire technologies that may not be suitable for their specific needs and contexts. A holistic and multi-sectoral approach to just energy transition pathways will be only achieved if we ensure the active and meaningful participation of local communities and frontline communities in the innovation process, if we upscale and support their solutions, understanding that technology development and transfer can and must also be a bottom-up process. The Gender Just Climate Solutions program run by the Women and Gender constituency has demonstrated that the solutions to address climate change and transition away from fossil fuels already exist, solutions that are gender responsive and intersectional. We just need to support and strengthen them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I think now we have the Engo.
Thank you, Laura. I speak on behalf of ENGO Climate Action Network. Maybe to start, we believe that international support includes creating the right conditions for countries to be able to implement just transition policies. And we do see international cooperation as an enabler of just transition pathways, which address technology, capacity building, and finance, among other things. But here, discussing technology transfer specifically, maybe just raising a couple of points. We believe that providing access to intellectual property rights in environmentally sound technologies could facilitate a strengthening of industrial capacities in countries in need of economic diversification options. And we also think that initiatives can be taken at the UNFCCC to accelerate the pace of technology transfer and build a more cooperative rather than competitive environmental climate action for job creation and prosperity. We also know that this will require addressing the concentration of intellectual property ownership and geopolitical leverage exercised through technology monopolies, which currently constrains access to climate-linked innovations and technology development in the global south. And to conclude, how could this be facilitated? We believe that the establishment of the Belém action mechanism for just transition could help supporting this. This global mechanism to accelerate, consolidate, and achieve a holistic just transition across the economy and between and within countries would have a coordination and knowledge sharing function, but also an implementation function that would ensure access to technical, financial, and knowledge-based support, including identifying and addressing opportunities, needs, and gaps in terms of technology transfer. And finally, this global mechanism could also support for better coordination with other bodies already working on technology transfer, such as the technology mechanism, among others. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that interventions and contribution. And now we have Ethiopia.
Thank you. I'm speaking as Ethiopia on behalf of the LDCs. LDCs face significant barriers to just energy transition pathways. So without securing the full range of means of implementation, finance, capacity building, and technology transfer tailored to their development context, LDCs cannot progress and leapfrog to clean futures. LDCs face technical capacity constraints and barriers in deploying clean energy technologies due to high upfront costs, limited expertise, and intellectual property issues. They also lack the necessary institutional architecture to support technology transfer, adapt technologies to local contexts, and integrate them into national development strategies. Technology transfer also often fails to consider local context, community knowledge, and local context. So it's important that they are contextually relevant. We also must avoid technology dumping risks, as LDCs have historically received outdated or ineffective technologies, often causing costly environmental and health impacts. Accessible, affordable, and context-appropriate technologies and system designs are essentials for LDCs to secure clean energy access and promote sustainable development, leaving no one behind. And ensuring adequate and sufficient financial support from the University Technology Mechanism is also critical for this. Thank you.
Uganda speaking in her national capacity. Technology transfer is hindered by means of implementation. It is very critical that we build our capacity to be able to develop technologies, both in terms of the capacity should be built in terms of human resource, but also provision of finance. The high cost of technology transfer hinders appropriate use of technologies. It is also critical to involve the private sector and the academia and to co-create with local communities. Dissemination of technology is also hindered, and there is need for social acceptance of the different technologies. But it's also critical, there is a need to promote sustainable practices for the management of waste from technology transfer. It's also important to promote sustainable environment tools when we are promoting the different technologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now online you have Yungo, and that's going to be the final intervention for this round. Yungo, you have the floor. Let's see if we can hear them. We could hear you, but now we're not hearing you anymore. Can you try to?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, thank you so much. To ensure innovation and technology transfer, must be holistic and transparent. The language best translation from concepts. So, utilizing the transfer of all types of documents the web which can protect clean children from marginalized communities. We don't see anyone, it's not enough. This means so important to be. Zero calls from all actions. Human technology, sensing facility, the UN of the person, will come to ensure zero six. Global energy transition, ensure management, zero national territories, innovation must build local capacity and sovereignty. This means directing resources to youth-driven energy innovations and ensuring that it follows the limits with sharing. Additionally, to move beyond dependency, we must facilitate engagement of domestic manufacturing capacity for renewable energy in itself. So that was long-term legislativity best process. Thank you.
Thank you, Jungo, for that intervention. And with that, we are wrapping up this round. Thank you again for all those rich contributions. And we'll have the facilitator that will join soon for the next topic. Thanks.
Hi everyone. Can everyone? Okay.
Good evening, colleagues. Apologies that we're starting a bit behind schedule. I hope you can hear me, or you can put your headsets if you're not able to hear. We ran it briefly late in the previous session, so we're just coming here. Sincere apologies for the delay in starting for the breakout group 3. But we'll be proceeding very quickly to discuss the two questions that we have for this session, and we'll first that we are on time and that we can be quite brief with our intervention, so we can cover as many as possible in the room. For this session, we will be taking both questions at once. You can see on your screen the two questions for this theme 3, capacity building and knowledge sharing. So we'll encourage you to respond to both questions when you take the floor, and we'll be starting just now. We have a few minutes to finish this round, and we hope to take all the experiences, knowledge, and best practices in the room. Please feel free to indicate parties and other observers if you would like to take the floor. I hope we have volunteers to break the ice and get us started so we can save some time. Thank you, Denmark, very much. Thank you for giving me the floor. I speak as Denmark, a member of the European Union, and I'll try to answer both questions at once. There are important social, cultural aspects related to the energy transition, for example, in coal regions. The phase out of coal across the European Union is to combat in climate change. However, for coal-dependent regions, particularly in Central and Eastern Europe, coal is not just a source of energy, it's part of their cultural fabric. It is therefore crucial to find ways to reimagine identities tied to coal extraction to ultimately create an energy transition that encompasses a cultural shift too, together with the most vulnerable people and communities affected by the transition to net zero societies. The EU emphasizes the formal recognition and integration of traditional knowledge and cultural heritage into energy transition planning. This aligns with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Paris Agreement's principles of justice. EU programs such as the Global Gateway and Horizon Europe co-creation projects facilitate participatory approaches that value local expertise, ensuring that energy solutions are socially and environmentally appropriate. The EU supports co-designing of energy projects within indigenous peoples as well as local communities, including early-stage consultations, participatory planning, and joint monitoring. Such approach has been proven to increase social acceptance, sustainability, and resilience. Horizon Europe missions and Innovation Fund pilot projects encourage multi-stakeholder engagement and community-led governance of energy initiatives. Energy projects must respect sacred sites, land rights, and traditional livelihoods, integrating environmental and social safeguards. EU funding frameworks require social and environmental due diligence, including consultation processes consistent with OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises and World Bank environmental and social standards. It's ensuring that development does not undermine cultural heritage or ecosystems. The EU promotes regional and global knowledge sharing platforms, enabling indigenous people as well as local communities to exchange experiences, co-develop solutions, and scale innovations. Initiatives such as the Global Climate Adaptation Partnerships, UNDP Climate Knowledge Hubs, and EU-led peer learning networks ensure that successful practices are replicable and adapted to diverse contexts, leaving no one behind. Traditional land management, renewable resource stewardship, and sustainable agriculture practices provide critical insights for climate-resilient energy systems. EU supports research and innovation programs that integrate these practices into multi-sectoral planning, reinforcing both biodiversity conservation and equitable energy access. At the national level, dedicated knowledge hubs and technical assistance platforms enable governments, communities, and industry stakeholders to access best practices, training, and data. Cross-border cooperation platforms strengthen the sharing of experience and technical reassurance. Examples include the North Sea Energy Cooperation for offshore renewables. These platforms not only enhance technical expertise, but also enable joint planning of infrastructure, cross-border electricity trade, and emergency coordination, supporting resilient and secure energy systems. EU initiatives such including Horizon Europe and the Innovation Fund and the Global Gateway provide funding for collaborative research, pilot projects, and skills development. These programs facilitate exchange between experts, governments, and communities across countries, ensuring that innovative solutions for renewable deployment, energy efficiency, and decarbonization are tailored to diverse local contexts. International platforms such as the UNDP Climate Promise, International Arena Coalitions for Action, and Mission Innovation Knowledge Hub provide forums for sharing experiences, trainings, modules, and technical assistance. Such mechanisms enable governments and local actors to adopt context-specific solutions while protecting workers, communities, and ecosystems. The EU is investing in digital knowledge-sharing platforms that connect cities, regions, and companies, implementing just transition measures. Platforms such as the European Green Digital Hub and IEA's Energy Transition Knowledge Hub enable real-time exchange of best practices, policy tools, and workforce training modules, ensuring that no community is left behind in the transition. Mechanisms should not only exchange knowledge, but also track outcomes and lessons learned. EU's monitoring framework works under the Just Transition mechanism, and the NECPs demonstrate the value of evidence-based capacity building. Lessons can be scaled and adapted internationally, reinforcing resilient, secure, and just energy pathways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denmark, for your statement. And we go virtually now to South Africa. Can we have South Africa?
Thank you, facilitator.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for giving me the floor. It's just really there's a need to be more specific with regards to needs in the context of just energy transition investments. It's touching points. Yes, just energy transition must take but it's also energy systems and trying for access and being access to opportunities to accessibility and communication. It's not about me rather than some decarbonization. So it's best energy transition specifics. And the whole economy, whole society approach recognizes that it's not utility for most representing and some regulations. First consideration materials. The kind of governance platforms it's operating within yes, and well, it influenced the international levels, notably that concept of implementation support. For instance, again, within this context, there's the need for finance and positive implementation support. So make that specific and so there's a need to create a task for those investments. Because it's out there people issues that view additional questions on industry. In the context of colonial tech agreements, conscious movements, position, cleanup, flower, mainstream, several associated capacity building needs. Ground capacity building and arts space and performance, and manuals, practical tools, programs, models, and samples value for original livelihoods. Context of the same urgency to be action replicate matchmaking and hard systems with regional flexibility. Community and locally adapted models for financing was important and performance and using firms to document change and replicate successes. So, Sandy needs to note, recognize that efforts to promote capacity building in the context of local work and investment has already gone into this area and it's difficult to recognize experiences where we don't feel very just transitions, but particularly can help the best and changes. While hopefully unjust transitions be leveraged to unlock finance and means of implementation support, forms of international cooperation and transitions we facilitate. Thank you.
Thank you, South Africa, for your statement. We now go to Norway.
Thank you. And I will make a point that is a little bit different than the question in a way, but it is about the language that we use. And I was a member of the Technology Executive Committee. We did the workshops together with the LSIP under the COPs. And one of the messages that was very clear is that we use different languages when we describe climate change and how we address climate change. So it's very important that we, in both directions in a way, so capacity building is almost like a two-way street here. We need to learn how to talk to each other in a language that is common. It sounds a bit silly in a way, but it was very clear in the dialogue that we used very different words for the same physical and nature experience. So that was going to be my main point, that we need to use languages that is enabling both parties, all parties, also indigenous people, to participate and have access to the processes and the consultation processes that is undertaken. Thank you.
Thank you, Norway, for highlighting that. And now we go to IP.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Facilitator. I speak on behalf of the Indigenous Peoples constituency. Capacity building and knowledge sharing are not optional add-ons to the just energy transition. They are essential for a transition that is inclusive, equitable, and sustainable. For this to happen, Indigenous peoples must be recognized as decision makers and knowledge holders, not just beneficiaries or stakeholders. Our knowledge systems must be valued on equal footing with science. For generations, we have safeguarded ecosystems that are essential for climate mitigation, adaptation, and biodiversity protection. This knowledge must not be tokenized or extracted, but integrated into policy and practice through processes that uphold our right to free, prior, and informed consent and self-determination. To ensure that capacity building and knowledge sharing are meaningful, we call for support for Indigenous networks, strengthening networks to share renewable energy practices, governance models, and solutions that are rooted in our cultural values and community priorities. These networks allow us to share innovations and lessons learned directly from community experiences. Second, intergenerational approaches. Invest in intergenerational capacity building that ensures youth and women lead in the energy transition. Indigenous women and youth are already driving solutions, from decentralized community-owned energy projects to advocacy for rights-based climate action. They must be supported as leaders at every level. Third, resourcing for sustained participation. Provide direct, predictable resources to support Indigenous peoples' participation in national, regional, and global spaces where decisions about the transition are being made. This includes funding for training, translation and interpretation, travel, digital connectivity, and technical expertise to fully engage as equal partners. Fourth, protection of knowledge systems, creating safeguards against the exploitation or misappropriation of indigenous knowledge systems, ensuring that any sharing is based on ethic, transparency, and respect for our governance systems and cultural protocols. And fifth, platforms for equitable exchange, establishing platforms for horizontal peer-to-peer learning, not top-down models where indigenous communities can share experiences, co-develop solutions, and learn from one another. Looking ahead, the means of implementation must be strengthened through a dedicated and inclusive mechanism, a global platform. This platform should embed meaningful participation of indigenous peoples, support technical assistance and capacity building grounded in human rights frameworks, and ensure adequate resources for our sustained engagement in dialogues, implementation, and monitoring. Simply refining existing modalities will not close structural gaps, and deferring the decision by, a multi-sectoral approach to capacity building also means connecting technical training with holistic needs, integrating food security, water, health, culture, and sustainable livelihoods to reflect the interconnected realities of our communities. A just transition will only succeed if indigenous peoples are recognized as partners and leaders with our knowledge and governance systems driving locally relevant, rights-based, and sustainable solutions. Thank you.
I thank you, IPO. We now go to Jordan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Omar Rabai on behalf of Jordan. Firstly, capacity building and knowledge sharing are critical for ensuring that just energy transition are inclusive, context sensitive, and shaped by the active participation of local communities and overall communities. Regarding the first question about how can capacity building and knowledge sharing initiatives under nationally defined just energy transition pathways, capacity building and knowledge sharing should be beyond technical training to fully integrate cultural heritage, traditional practices, and community priorities into energy transition pathways. Empowering local communities as an active partner requires participatory planning, co-creation of solutions, and recognition of traditional knowledge as a valuable resources alongside modern technology. For developing countries, this approach strengthens ownership, ensures cultural relevance, and promotes sustainable long-term adoption of new practices. For Jordan, Jordan has engaged local community in renewable energy initiatives such as solar projects in rural areas and refugee camps, where community participation and village integration were central to project design and delivery. Regarding to the second question, about mechanism and the platform. Effective mechanism include regional platforms, open knowledge hubs, peer-to-peer learning, and multi-stakeholder partnership that connect governments, private sector, academia, and civil society. For developing countries, such platforms ensure that lessons learned and practical tools are shaped across broader borders, while enabling adaptation to local realities. Digital tools, regional center for excellence, and the cross-country demonstration project can help scale capacity building while promoting inclusivity and diversity. And it's an example for Jordan. Jordan actively participated in regional platform for renewable energy and climate action, sharing its experience in scaling solar and wind energy and building technical expertise via MRV system, while also hosting a training program that support capacity development across the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. We now go to Grenada.
Good day, everybody. In terms of capacity building and knowledge sharing, acceptance that a one-size-fits-all model won't work in all and most places. We must also accept that being small has many disadvantages. In small island developing states, engaging through a bottom-up participatory and the co-sharing approaches could enable success to just energy transition pathways. Language clarity and understanding definitions and meaning must also be a just consideration. Equity, just access, and just engagements must also be facilitated through engaging in traditional means of energy provision, example, the charcoal burners. Thank you.
Thank you, Grenada. We have two more in the room. So we'll go to Uganda and then Ango. If we can be please brief because we have to wrap up in about 3 minutes. Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you. Uganda speaks this national capacity. Capacity building and knowledge sharing should not be considered as one size fits it all. It is definitely very critical for us to carry out training needs assessment to be able to
Hello? Hello?
Hello. What's right here?
Hello? Hello? Check. Hello? Hello? You can hear me, but I can't see you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's quite faint.
Testing, testing, testing.
Yes, sir.
Super. Then I think we can start and have a quick round of intervention if anyone would like to come in, and then I'll hand over to our facilitator.
Hello? Um, Good evening, good morning for those who are joining online. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are going to do a quick intervention on climate finance for just transition pathway. So I'm just going to read the guiding questions and then we are going to take a few submissions and then we'll be guided by the Secretariat on the way forward. So here are the guiding questions for the climate finance for just energy transition pathway. What lessons are being learned on financing nationally defined just energy transition pathways? aligned with the outcome of the first global stock take, including through enhancing access to climate finance, innovative blended finance, crowding in of the private sector in a way that complements public finance, and financing for social protection systems. The second question is, what innovative financing mechanisms and policy frameworks could support enhancing the provision of climate finance or transitioning away from fossil fuels in a just, orderly, and equitable manner, in line with the national development priorities and while safeguarding affected workers and communities? So those are our guiding questions, and colleagues online and in the room are free to make their contributions towards this discussion. Over. Denmark, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I speak as Denmark, a member of the European Union. I'll try to answer both questions. Actions contributing to just transition are already being financed domestically, multiple streams at international level, both under the UNFCCC and outside of the UNFCCC, both multilaterally, bilaterally, and by other types of cooperation. International finance institutions, including the MDBs, could play an increased role and consider how to enhance eligibility of projects that adjust transition considerations under existing policy objectives of such institutions, as well as by offering guarantees for minimizing the potential risks for private co-financing. According to various sources, such as the UN High-Level Climate Action Champions, IEA and IMF, the private sector has the potential to deliver up to 60 to 70% of total investments needed to achieving net zero emissions in EMDs. Central and commercial banks, investors, insurers, and asset owners have mechanisms at their disposal to allocate capital for just transition and influence the transition process in the real economy. Actions that contribute to making all finance flows consistent with a transition to net zero and climate resilient societies create opportunities to support a just transition. According to the IPCC AR6 Synthesis report, there is sufficient global capital to close the global investment gap for transition toward low GHG emissions and climate resilient development. But there are barriers to redirect capital to climate action. It also notes that public and private finance flows for fossil fuels are still greater than those for climate adaptation and mitigation. Hence, moving away from investing into fossil fuel related assets and aligning financial flows in line with Article 2.1c helps to avoid further stranded assets and support climate friendly economies via investments into just transitions to net zero and climate resilient societies. Identifying and making available domestic opportunities and resources of support, including both public and private sources, is crucial to support just transition pathways. Strengthening enabling conditions, policy frameworks, incentives, and investment environments is crucial to enable the mobilization of finance corresponding to the scale and nature of the socio-economic challenges and considerations related to just transition, especially to attract private investments, including access currently taking economic advantages from emitting activities. There's a large range of possible actions that can be taken mainly by governments at a domestic level. For instance, governments could promote fiscal, financial, and regulatory frameworks aimed at reducing the cost of capital, facilitate a just and equitable net zero transition, as well as incentivize credit enhancement programs such as insurance mechanisms, guarantees, and other blended finance approaches. Fiscal tools are a strong economic instrument to achieve solidarity in emissions reduction as they tackle the most emitting activities while providing midterm revenues that can be used to provide financial support to the most vulnerable people to invest in those activities sectors that might accompany the transition and that might be less financially appealing currently. In this way, fiscal tools are historically one of the key instruments lying at the core of every social pact contract, both at the domestic and international levels. To support fossil fuel phase out, the EU leverages blended finance approaches, combining public grants, concessional loans, and private capital to de-risk investments in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and clean energy deployment. The Just Transition Mechanism simplifies this approach by channeling 19 billion euros in public funding to mobilize private investment in fossil-dependent regions. EU experience shows that carbon pricing and emission trading systems can provide sustainable revenue streams of finance to just transitions. The EU emission trading system generates resources that can be reinvested in worker reskilling, clean energy infrastructure, and community development. Innovative instruments such as green and transition bonds provide scalable financing for clean energy infrastructure and social transition measures. Guarantees, insurance, and risk mitigation instruments are also crucial to attract private investment in regions exposed to economic, climatic, and geopolitical risk. World Bank's partial risk guarantees, OECD's risk-sharing frameworks, and EU-backed financial instruments reduce investors' risk while ensuring that projects benefit both workers and communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your submissions on behalf of Denmark. Any other submissions both online and in the room?
Much, Mr. Facilitator. I'm speaking on behalf of Angle Climate Action Network. So we believe that a just transition is both global and local, and neither will be possible without multilateral cooperation and solidarity policies, where attention is given to both the policy space, so challenging global rules that allow double standards when it comes to industrial policy capacity and environmental and social protection levels, and second, the fiscal space, so taking a courageous and multilateral approach to funding a just transition. But what do we mean, or what do we mean when we say that we need to fund just energy transition strategies? First, just transition plans require funding, and every successful experience of economic diversification and social support shows how key public funding is needed to make it happen. Second, there are at least 5 initial areas of just transition approaches that require public funds. And in the context of countries lacking the domestic capacity to direct those funds, grants being provided as part of climate finance. And these areas are robust consultation mechanism and institution, social protection, skills, economic diversification, and socio-ecological restoration. So how do we create the fiscal space for just transition strategies? I will just mention a few clear places that require urgent action. First, the provision of grants to support fundamental sets of policies to implement just transition in countries with limited resources is critical. Right now, most initiatives connected to facilitating a just transition are being funded with either concessional loans or private investments, leaving behind the justice elements. And here it is important to recognize that there are aspects of just transition policies that need to be explicitly supported by climate finance, as otherwise they would not be covered by traditional mitigation, adaptation, or loss and damage policies. And resources must be new and additional and not divert funds from other development priorities. And we also want to stress here that the quality of finance is also fundamental. Second, canceling debt is an important tool to free up capacity in developing countries. If countries are spending more on debt servicing than on health or education, how are we thinking that they will be able to implement a just transition? So the current debt architecture needs to be restructured, moving from a creditor-led system to a more equitable and sustainable regime where developing countries are not constantly and systematically penalized. Third, and I will close there, how do we maximize funding and coordination to tackle the barriers from the space that we are in under the UNFCCC? Our proposal to establish the Belém Action Mechanism for Global Just Transition, the BAM, seeks to advance a multilateral approach to supporting just transition efforts, one that brings together entities with a mandate and willingness to support just transition, be it through public finance, funding, knowledge, and capacity and technology sharing. And the BAM will also help to make the connection between different conversations that are happening within and outside the UNSCCC on the structural barriers that are faced by developing countries to access finance, such as unsustainable debt levels, high cost of capitals, or fiscal constraints that are hindering a global just transition to happen on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your submission on behalf of Engo. Any other submissions, points of view? Uganda?
Thank you. Uganda recognizes that finance is very critical for energy transition, and is very critical for us to be able to get access to readiness funds to support development of project pipelines. But there's also need for us to be able to develop a pipeline of projects that can attract funding from the different multilateral development banks and also from the bilateral donors. But there is also need for country platforms to ensure that we actually display the platform pipeline of projects that we have. But it's also critical to ensure that grants funding is available to support or to be a sweetener for us to be able to get concessional loans. And insurance is very critical, and it hinders access to finance. But it's also critical to have the involvement of the private sector. And it's very important that we build a capacity to be able to access the funding. But also we realize that most of the funding initiatives now require the involvement of implementing partners, and this sometimes hinders progress in accessing some of the funding. But also it's critical to have in place energy transition plans to enable proper planning for resource mobilization. So in terms of the innovative ways to access innovative financing mechanisms, we are looking at Uganda is implementing the carbon market mechanisms, and we have in place the carbon regulations that are supporting trade in carbon markets now, but also partnership with the national development banks and the public-private partnerships and public financing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your submission on behalf of Uganda. Any more triggers? Okay, I'm being advised that in the interest of time, we need to stop here. So I'll hand over to the Secretary for the announcement. Okay.
Thank you so much to our facilitator and to all of you for sticking around for this long. I know it's been a very long day. But just to update you a little bit on the plan for tomorrow, we will meet again in the plenary starting at 8:30 as per the agenda. We will move some things around so that we start the day with the reflection and report back from the breakout sessions today. So at 8:30 tomorrow in the meeting room 1, we will have the reflections report back session. And in that reflection and report back session, all participants will also get the opportunity to share any additional feedback that wasn't communicated or wasn't able to be communicated in the breakout room due to technical issues or anything. So there will be an opportunity tomorrow to ensure that you are able to provide all the feedback that you would like to provide on these three thematic areas that we were discussing today. And of course, as you know, the secretariat email address is always open to receive written submissions, and we do appreciate that if you choose to do so. So with that, thank you so much to everyone
And thanks for staying for as long as you have. Maybe look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.